WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. I know when the games get to be important because they bring in the network folks. Randy Moss was here all weekend and doing the thing on Black Monday. Randy, be honest with me. They sent you in here thinking some hokey pokey could have been going down on Monday if this thing had gone the other way, right? I mean, like, you guys at the network were prepared for anything, and I know Harbaugh sort of stood in the middle of all of this if things didn't go the right way, right? And they did, and we're talking playoffs, and you're on to Houston and Indy, but it was kind of a weird weekend, and I think the game sort of held up to be the kind of game that everyone was focused on around the league, and why Romo and Nance were in here too, right?
Yeah, the plan originally was to keep me there through Monday. Do you think that's why? What a game it was. I mean, just so much drama, so much back and forth, touchdowns that should have been that weren't, calls that were that weren't, that shouldn't have been, whistles that weren't blown that should have been, and vice versa. It was just a real chaotic, fascinating, wonderful game to be at.
Well, and then there was the aftermath, right? And look, you and I have been at this a long time. You travel around and do this every year. I've been in winning locker rooms, losing locker rooms. There's something fresh about when it's a bunch of new guys. When it's C.J. Mosley, who's not used to this, or when it's Brandon Williams, who's not used to this, or when it's any of the young puppies around here who aren't used to it. But behind all of it, there's Yonda, there's Suggs, there's Tucker, and there's even Flacco, which... That's another part of this story that we never see inked in any. There's so many unique things about 4 and 5 and where Harbaugh was and where the organization is, but where Flacco is in all of this and where Lamar Jackson is, right?
That's pretty fascinating. It is. And to be fair, I mean, 1 year ago, okay, the Ravens obviously should have made it to the playoffs, were it not for that, highly improbable Andy Dalton to Tyler Boyd pass with 44 seconds left on 4th and 12. But last year they also started 4 and 5, and then had a Week 10 bye, and then won 5 of their next 6, and that was with Joe Flacco, right? So, but what Lamar Jackson does, in my opinion, no, he's not as polished of a passer as Joe Flacco. He's not as much of a pocket-style passer as Joe Flacco. Not as accurate as Joe Flacco. But he adds such a dynamic element to the running game that obviously no other quarterback in the NFL can match, and historically, maybe in the modern NFL, it's never really been exactly this way. And that opens up the play action to such an extent that he doesn't need to be as accurate a passer as Joe Flacco. You got the running game that's incredible right now. And if you look at the stats of Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco for this year, passing, they're very comparable. I mean, Lamar Jackson's completion percentage is a little lower, 61 to 58, but he's got the same touchdown to interception ratio, 2-to-1. He's got almost an identical passer rating. He's actually got a better yards per passing attempt than Flacco had. So you get the dynamic running game part of it, and because of the play action, you don't really have to give up that much in the passing game.
Randy Moss is here. He's not that Randy Moss. He's the other Randy Moss, the one I see every third Saturday of May here for Preakness. And, of course, the NFL Network, as well as NBC, and coverage of all things Triple Crown. So we'll get to that. And he'll be with the NFL Network with Houston and Indianapolis this weekend. Spent last weekend here out at the Castle. You sort of do these fly-ins, Randy, and especially on the football side. I mean, I probably sit here all night and talk horse racing with you, but on football, you go in, you do a deep dive for a weekend, you see people you know. What did you make of your little in and out of all the things and being out in front of the Purple Bird? And I saw John Ogden peering over your shoulder there from your shots on Monday with Mike Silver and everybody on the network, because I was watching the Black Monday coverage like everyone was. 8 coaches fired, all the controversy going on. But you come in and you get a sense of an organization probably different than anything you've seen coming in, right, to that building. There is a different tone right now than there ever was under Ray Lewis or under Joe Flacco or under Brian Billick or anything that came before this.
It's true. There's a lot more. I think there's more enthusiasm, more youthful enthusiasm going on right now because of Lamar Jackson, because of some of the other young guys. And Terrell Suggs just sort of jokingly references it, and he did in the locker room after the game. He said all these guys are celebrating. I'm going to have to bring them back into line this week. They got to understand that there's still a lot more football left to go, and I got to keep their feet on the ground. It's my job to do that. So yeah, you get a little bit of a different vibe this year with the Ravens than you're accustomed to seeing, definitely.
Well, you sense the danger, right, in Baker Mayfield. You sense the danger in Phillip Rivers and them coming in here, Patrick Mahomes, that this defense has done some bending, right, but hasn't broken so much, maybe the Kansas City game notwithstanding. And there were so many whistles in the Cleveland game and the Lamar fake sneak sort of thing where the ball got batted back. It probably should have been a touchdown the other direction. They've lived on the edge, and I think that's part of this offense. That's part of we're going to, have to go 10, 12, 13, 14 plays to score a touchdown, that if we break down on the 10th or 11th or 12th play or the ball hits the ground, there's so many things that have to happen, but the one thing they do is take the air out of the ball, and Phillip Rivers flies across the country knowing, hey, I'm not going to get 80 snaps here this week. I'm not going to touch the ball 12 times here. I'm only going to get 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 possessions, and this defense, especially the way Weddle played it a couple of weeks ago, it really is a cat and mouse game here. And I would think anything we saw 2 weeks ago, we probably won't be seeing so much of it from either side of the ball here this week, right?
No, I mean, you get a lot of these Ravens games that I had a chance to go back and watch on film before my fly-in. And a lot of them seem to be, they come down to the wire, obviously. And then after the game, you think, well, if this hadn't happened or if this had happened just a little bit differently, the Ravens don't win this game. And yet here they are, having won 6 of their last 7 games and headed to the playoffs. And there is some consistency to that. And I think a lot of that is the complementary football that you alluded to. But when you talk about the rematch this weekend, there's a lot of talk about, do the Chargers have an advantage now, having seen this offense twice? This will be the first time since they made the transition to Lamar Jackson that they've actually played a team now twice. Because it's such an unconventional offense, does it help the Chargers to have seen that already? But when you go back and look at the game 2 weeks ago, the Chargers actually did a really good job in the second half on the Ravens and on Lamar Jackson. I mean, Lamar Jackson only carried the ball for like 30-something yards. They held him to 138 yards total offense in the second half, and you had that defensive touchdown of the Ravens, the fumble return. They only scored 1 offensive touchdown in the game. So, and the Chargers have been a better road team than a home team this year. So, it's going to be another tough one for the Ravens, and the Chargers, did a pretty good job on him last time.
Randy Moss is here. He is with NFL Network. You can find him out on Twitter at Randy_Moss_TV and also at NBC Sports and covering the Ponies as well. Last thing for you in this offense, and I talked a lot about this last week. I wrote about it a little bit. In all of my years of watching football, first off, this was sort of an absurd notion back at the bye week of 4-5 that they were going to move this offense and win the way they've done and get the defense off the field and take the air out of the ball and take the other team's $25 or $30 million quarterback and take plays away. Randy, I almost equate it to basketball when you get Shaq in foul trouble or get LeBron in foul trouble and they can't be on the floor. When Phillip Rivers can't be on the floor, he can't dance, he can't beat you. And the way that's been done for me has been second down, specifically first down, but second down on down and distance. I have never seen a team in 2nd and 2 and 3 and 4 more than this team has been in 2nd and 2 and 3 and 4. And I remember when Brian Billick signed Scott Mitchell 20 years ago here. We talked about Barry Sanders and what an incredible running back he was, but how many times the Lions were in 2nd and 13 or 2nd and 14 because there was some dancing and sometimes he'd get trapped and put you in a bad D&D. The Ravens are never in a bad D&D unless they have a holding penalty or there's a somebody jumps or something. But usually on first down, that ball's going forward and it's going forward well. And I think on 2nd and 2 and 2nd and 3 and 2nd and 4, when you're in those down and distances, man, you can really eat in this league, no matter who you are.
It's huge in the NFL to be able to have that advantage. And the Ravens have the advantage of not only having that unbelievable power running game and, a deceptive edge to the running game, obviously, with the way that they do it in a lot of the read option things. That also sets up the play action pass so well that they can go to that on first down, which they did a lot at the first part of the game against the Ravens. They actually dropped back to pass or threw on 8 of their first 12 snaps because that's the kind of look that the Browns were showing them. So, yeah, it's a huge advantage to be able to get a second and short. One point I want to make, though, about the Ravens offense. It's so much is being made about the fact that it's different than any other offense in the NFL. And that's obviously true. I mean, that read option element and the design quarterback keepers that Lamar Jackson is running is just unlike anything else in the NFL to do it to that degree, to do it that frequently. But it also comes down to execution. You know, they've got such a good run-blocking offensive line, and they've got such good running backs right now in Edwards and Dixon, and they've got such a fast quarterback in Lamar Jackson who's running that offense right now to perfection, that it's not a gimmick. I mean, they are lining up, and they're coming right at the defense, and the defense knows what they're going to get. In the case of the Browns, Greg Williams was dropping a safety into the box more often than not to try to stop the run, and yet they still got 298 yards rushing. They're just lining up and executing and just whipping the opponents on the offensive line, and that's got a lot to do with it.
Randy Moss is here. He will be not in Baltimore this week. He'll be down having the nachos and the good drinks down there in Houston, Indianapolis and Houston this weekend. And they got you moving around here place to place. This is a hell of a tournament, isn't it? I mean, I don't usually when Tom Brady's in the tournament or there's some super team or some Kurt Warner in the tournament, you say, well, they're the best team. I'll give the Saints that. I'll give the Chiefs that, but not by the sort of margin, and certainly not in Vegas where I think you could throw a dart up and down both of these conferences right now. There are things to recommend the Eagles. There are things to recommend the Bears. Certainly things to recommend the Colts, as you saw on Sunday night. And I know that's where you're headed this weekend, Randy.
Yeah, to me on the NFC side of it, the Saints are going to be awfully tough to beat at home. That's the key part of that equation, that they have home field advantage. And I think they deserve to be a solid favorite to get to the Super Bowl just because of that.
But I don't think they're monstrously better than anybody else, though, right?
Maybe not. But on the NFC side, oh, my gosh. To me, it's a coin flip. I totally agree. There are so many – every team in the tournament on the AFC you can make a strong case for, including the Colts, who won 9 of their last 10 with Andrew Luck. They'll take their show on the road, but they're right in the mix as well. It's going to be a fascinating next few weeks.
Randy, anything on horse racing you got for me, man? I don't get together with you too often. You strolled through town, and I saw you out in Owings Mills. I'm going to call Randy, get him on the show this week, but it's a little early, but it is 2019. It's not too early to talk about it, right? I mean, we're almost 10 weeks from now, we'll be running races, right?
Bob Baffert. That's the two words to keep your eye on right now. Yet again, he has right now what are the two best early Kentucky Derby contenders and game winner, the one that won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, no surprise there. And then another horse named Improbable, which is kind of a funny story. I mean, he's undefeated. He didn't run in the Breeders' Cup, but he looks probably every bit as good as game winner. He's got the same ownership as Justify, right? The same stall as Justify. So the joke was they named him Improbable because how improbable would it be if he turned out to be as good as Justify? And now, lo and behold, he's not proven he's that good yet, but he's an awfully exciting prospect.
Randy, I have made several trips up to Belmont chasing this thing, Big Brown and Smarty Jones and Funny Side. And of course, I was not there when it actually happened, right? So, I'm still sort of putting it aside that, I should always keep that weekend in June there for a little trek up to New York and a little springtime magic. We will see you back here in May. Hopefully, if the Ravens keep winning, maybe I'll see you in Foxborough next week or Kansas City next week or somewhere for some barbecue. But always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for always making time and being a good friend to us, Randy. Appreciate you, man.
Likewise. You have a happy new year, all right? I'll see you soon.
You got it. Randy Moss, he is there. Randy_Moss_TV. And I want to say it out loud, and I'll say it to Randy Moss. If I could have either Randy Moss on my show, That's the Randy Moss I want to have on my program. The one that talks horse racing with me. He'll be down in Houston this week for Houston and Indianapolis. He was out in Owings Mills all week long. I think he might have been on the John Harbaugh watch, but there was no John Harbaugh watch now, other than the good speech and the fun after the game and all the momentum leading up to Festivus this week. Luke will be in Owings Mills all week long, getting you ready for all things Ravens and Chargers. I'm going to be here on the AM side of the dial at 1570, as well as at WNST.net, bringing it to you on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram and streaming anywhere your streaming reaches you on your mobile device on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Our morning newspaper ships directly to your email inbox digitally each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. $5 down, $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. It's 2019. What are you waiting for? Get on out to Planet Fitness and get yourself in the best shape of your life. Also brought to you by our friends at Laurel Park, where the entries for WNST.net's morning newspaper, you got that, and you also have it out on the front of WNST.net. If you need racing at Laurel, you need WNST.net and our morning newspaper. We're getting ready for Triple Crown season around here as well. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colazzos will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home, getting you ready for the Ravens and the Chargers. There will be no further discussion of Terps basketball or Oriole baseball, and there'll be no blade touching my face. I'm growing a playoff beard. It's weird. My beard. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.